Hi there guys, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at Rancher that I've got working with my K3s cluster. So my cluster at the moment only consists of 2 nodes. My complete setup is I have 4 Raspberry Pis. One is running Pi-hole, and that's basically acting as my DHCP, DNS, internet gateway for my network that the cluster is on. Then I've got a head node and a worker node in my K3s cluster. I've got some more Pis coming, which I'm going to be adding into that cluster. And then I have a separate Pi which is running Rancher. So you can install Rancher directly onto your kind of K3s cluster, which is an option. I chose to go separate. I'm running Raspberry Pis, and I wanted to maximize the amount of kind of compute power. So rather than bogging down the head node by running Rancher as well as being the K3s head node and running Longhorn and so on, I put it on its own. So that's basically my setup. And now we'll take a look at Rancher itself. So when you install Rancher, it actually sets up its own kind of K3s cluster, okay? So when you first log in, you're going to see this here, which is the cluster which has been created by Rancher when it was set up. So you can see this is running on the Raspberry Pi, which is an 8 gig Raspberry Pi. So we've got 7.87 gig of memory and 4 cores. And now in our actual Raspberry Pi cluster, which I've already imported here, you can see we've got a total of 24 gig of memory. I've got a 16 gig and an 8 gig Pi. So the 16 gig is the head node and the 8 gig is the worker. So as your kind of K3s cluster grows, we'll see these numbers increase when we add more to it. And you can also see as well the number of pods that have been deployed, maximum number of pods that could be deployed, and so on. So it's kind of quite useful. Other things that you can do here in Rancher is, you can go and look at any cron jobs that are running. You can see all of the daemon sets you've got running, deployments, apps. Now, we haven't got anything running on this local K3s cluster, but if we go over to our Raspberry Pi one, you'll see we get some more information here. So we can look at deployments that we've got running on our cluster. So we've got these 3 deployments here. You can see any daemon sets that you have running. You can see all of your pods. You can see apps if you have any. So all we've got at the moment installed is the Cube Prometheus stack, which is what's scraping our stats. We've got Longhorn installed, so you can actually open up a link here which will take you to the Longhorn monitoring dashboard, which is quite nice. So you can see all of the available volumes on your cluster and the amount of space that they've got. So that's also by node as well, so you can see here our storage by node too. So that's quite nice. So what I'm going to cover is basically how you get your Raspberry Pi cluster or any other K3s cluster here into Rancher. So what we're going to do is go to import existing, and we go to generic, and then you input here the cluster name. So we'll call this our RPi cluster. I spell cluster with a K just to be cute because it's running Kubernetes. Excuse me. And then that's basically it. You're going to go down here and go to create. Oh, and it's all got to be lowercase. I forgot about that. By cluster, there you go. And you go to create. So it won't provision it because we already have one named this, so we'll call this our Pi cluster 2, and we go to create. Now it's going to create that, and basically then it gives you this here. So I'm running without SSL, so I go to the option that doesn't use SSL basically. So you got to be careful which link you choose here. So the first link includes SSL, but if you get a certificate signed by unknown authority error in your Rancher installation, has a self-signed or untrusted SSL certificate, then run the command below to bypass the certificate. So basically I run this. So you're going to copy that, you just click on it, it'll copy it, and then you'll go over to your Raspberry Pi, which is running Rancher. It doesn't have to be a Raspberry Pi like I say, but in my case it is. And you're going to SSH into that and run that command. So if I can remember, let's check it out on Pi-hole what I called this. I think it's called my Pi Rancher. Yeah, Pi Rancher .cluster. Okay, so SSH Pi Rancher at Pi Rancher.cluster. And this should get us into there. I kept some notes somewhere. Pi Rancher. Okay. Forgot I did use an uppercase here, I think. So we'll try that. And there we go. So once you're in here, basically you're going to copy that command in. Now I'm not going to actually hit enter because I've already added this, so I don't want to add my same cluster again. But that's basically it. Once you hit enter here, it will run some commands on your cluster. Sorry, I wouldn't run this from Pi Rancher. Sorry, I would go to my head node and I'd run this. So you go to your K3s head node and you run this command, not to the Pi running Rancher. So it would be SSH into my Pi head node. Yeah, so you would run it from your head node here, copy and paste it into there. When you run this, it's going to run a bunch of commands on your head node, and in very short kind of space of time, you will see this come up then in Rancher on the dashboard. So that's basically it. It's not overly complicated. It will show up here. Now at the moment, it's showing pending because it's not been imported. We're not going to actually have this one at all, so we'll delete it because I'm not going to add it. Okay, but that's basically it. Yeah, so once it's showing up in here, all the data will just automatically kind of start coming in. So it's not really very difficult to get set up. To be honest, it's quite simple, and it gives you some nice features. So another thing that you can do through here is you can actually edit the YAMLs of pods. So for example, we can find a pod here, say Nginx here, and then we can go to edit YAML, and you can actually then edit the YAML of that pod that's running there. So go back. So yeah, basically Rancher enables you to be able to have some basic overview of your nodes. So I use it with Grafana. So Grafana dashboards give me more in-depth kind of information. Okay. So I get CPU temperatures and similar data here to what we have in Rancher, total number of cores, storage capacity, and so on. But it also then goes down into a little bit more detail in here, individual pod usage, container CPUs, how much CPU power the specific containers are using. So I get a lot more data here. This is all coming through Prometheus running on the K3s. Rancher mostly though is a nice graphical user interface for you to be able to manage the cluster and deploy deployments and so on. So you can go to deployments here and you can go to create, and you can actually create a deployment here, so you don't have to do it all through the command line basically, which is quite nice. And also the same for pods, so you can create a pod. So that's it. That's basically how you get Rancher set up and what it can be used for on your K3s cluster. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in our next video.